Welcome back to Unit 1. This is Section 4, Lesson 1, and the first video for this lesson. This is Ms. Clemens-Brenton, and in this video, we'll look at how to estimate square roots. We can use a number line to estimate square roots. So let's estimate square root of 32. Well, here we have a number line, so across the top here, I'm going to write the perfect squares. So I know that the square root of 1 is 1, the square root of 4 is 2, the square root of 9 is 3, and so on. The square root of 32 would be located between 25 and 36, which means it's going to fall somewhere between 5 and 6 on that number line. So let's enlarge that piece of the number line. Well, the square root of 32 is going to fall just below the square root of 36. So if we have to estimate a number between 5 and 6, I know that the square root of 32 is a little bit more than half. We're only going to estimate to one decimal place, so I would estimate that this would be closer to 5.7. Let's look at another example. Let's estimate the square root of 124. Well, I know that the square root of 124 is going to fall between the square root of 121 and 144. So if we enlarge that piece of the number line again, the square root of 124 is really close to the square root of 121. So if I'm going to estimate the square root of that between 11 and 12, I can see that it's really close to 11. So I would probably estimate the square root of 124 to be around 11.1. We can also estimate square roots by determining the perfect squares on either side of the square root that we're estimating. These numbers are called benchmarks. So for example, the square root of 57 would fall between two perfect squares. I know that the perfect square just below 57 is 49. I know that the perfect square just above 57 is 64. If I count between 49 and 57, I know that there are 8 numbers in between. And if I count from 57 up to 64, I know that there are 7 numbers in between. So the square root of 49 is 7, and the square root of 64 is 8. And if I have to estimate in between 7 and 8, I can use these guides that I placed up here on the top to determine whereabouts the square root of 57 would fall. So if it's 8 on the left here and 7 on the right, I know that the number is almost right in the middle, but it's just a little bit closer to the right. So if we estimated around 7.5 or 7.6, I would think either one of those estimates would be acceptable. If we estimate the square root of 190, I know that the perfect square just below 190 is 169. And I know that the perfect square just above 190 is 196. So if I count from 169 up to 190, I get 21 numbers in between. And if I count from 190 up to 196, I get 6 numbers in between. So the square root of 169 is 13. The square root of 196 is 14. And from these two numbers that I placed up here, I know that it's much closer to 196. So if I have to pick a number between 13 and 14, but much closer to 14, I might say 13.8 or 13.9. Please complete the activities for this lesson.